we go this time?
I don't know.
The fittest.
Type A people and go get them and hard workers.
Ambitious high flyers.
Sky's the limit. You try hard enough.
The job takes it out of you.
Buying, selling, all day long.
You sink or swim.
You don't make money, you're out.
The gym helps you stay in.
I think that if you switch off, you've got to switch on again.
Workout, restaurant and play, all in the square mile. Working Out starts Sunday the 10th of August on 5.
A touch of the Far East in the Northeast at 8 tonight. William Van Haeg's computerised gardening team transforms a concrete catastrophe in Newcastle into a Japanese oasis fit for an emperor. That's Instant Gardens. After tonight's Wings Over Britain plays the Song of the Curlew.
Early spring in moorland Britain. It's been a long, hard winter, but one day there's a welcome noise in the air, a rich, bubbling trill which seems to reach to the heavens and back. And this is the singer. The curlew is a true herald of spring as it arrives back on its nesting grounds once more. Curlews are waders, but they don't spend all their time near water. At the end of winter, they leave the coast and travel inland to breed. That enormously long curved bill is the curlew's most distinctive feature. But we often tend to forget what the bird looks like altogether. For when the curlew announces its return on its breeding grounds with those heart-stirring calls, it's a chance to simply rejoice in its beautiful song. The curlew is the largest British wader. It's an inhabitant of muddy creeks and estuaries. At low tide, the long bill is an ideal feeding tool as it searches for worms and crustaceans in the mud. But in early spring, curlews forsake these coastal haunts for their traditional nesting grounds, the uplands and moorlands. Now the moors ring with the songs of the returning birds as they display above their breeding territories. Curlews originally nested in upland Britain, but since the beginning of this century they've spread to the lowlands too. Here they nest in a variety of habitats, but they're particularly fond of water meadows. Away from the coast, the curlew's diet changes. This one's searching for earthworms, but the birds eat spiders, beetles, flies and plant material too. Though the sexes are similar, females usually have longer bills than males. At close range, you can see the difference. This means male and female curlews feed slightly differently from each other. But this male isn't feeding. He's defending his chosen territory against a rival. Nearby, a female preens. The two males perform a strange ritual, stabbing their bills at the turf and picking up grass and sticks in a war of nerves. Finally, one bird drives the other one away. Now the winner can focus his attention on the female. Much of the curlew's courtship takes place on the ground. In the water meadows, the lapwings are busy finding partners too. Lapwings are early nesters, and pairs are usually formed by mid-March. The curlews aren't far behind. With courtship over, the birds select a place to lay their eggs. Both partners show their readiness with a bowing display at the chosen nest site. The female is already preparing her nest, but if she lays too soon, her eggs could be in danger. Every year, a number of early curlews' nests are destroyed when the grass is rolled at the end of winter. If the nest scrape is deep enough, the eggs will be unharmed. The bird will lay 3 more eggs before she starts to sit. Should danger threaten, the bird leaves the nest, then returns quietly when it's safe. She doesn't go straight back to the nest. A slow, casual approach helps to conceal its whereabouts from any watching predators. Once she's settled again, the curlew is almost invisible. When a potential egg thief like the carrion crow arrives, she's immediately on the alert. But her mate has spotted the crow too. After chasing the crow away, the male returns. The incubation period lasts almost a month. Both birds normally share the task, and every few hours the sitting bird is relieved at the nest. In the lapwing's nest, the first chicks have already hatched. The parent settles to warm them and the hatching eggs. The curlew's eggs too will hatch soon, but the danger period isn't over yet. Though hedgehogs are normally insectivorous, they'll eat the eggs of ground-nesting birds if they can find them. But the curlew isn't going to let the hedgehog near her nest. With her eggs on the point of hatching, she settles down to a final session of brooding. A few hours later, the chicks are emerging. The first is already dry. Soon it's active and ready to start feeding. The bill of a newly hatched curlew chick is short and straight. It's used to pick up insects and spiders in the grass. In early summer, the lush meadows are grazed by cattle. They're another hazard to successful nesting by the curlews. This bird lost her first set of eggs when the grass was rolled. She's laid another clutch, but it seems her second nest is doomed too. When the cattle move on, the bird returns, but her eggs have been smashed. She surveys her ravaged nest. In frustration, she even picks up some nesting material as if to start again, but it's too late in the season for any hope of success. At the successful nest, the chicks are 2 weeks old. They're vulnerable to predators, so the parents divide their care by splitting the brood between them. This means there's a better chance that at least some will survive. The chicks search busily for food, but it'll be several weeks before their bills grow long and down-curved like their parents.
Survival, the music of nature. Survival, the music to soothe. Survival, the ultimate unwinding experience.
Well, hello. You look like a nice guy.
A man with extremely good taste.
Have you scored recently?
Got any extra time?
Wanna play ball?
This is what I want, what I really, really want.
New cheese and chive flavour from Walker's are so irresistible. Taste no more, Mr. Spice Guy.
One bowlful of Kellogg's Special K has half the amount you need each day of these 8 vitamins and iron. No wonder we call it special. Kellogg's Special K. Stay special. Listen, Colgate Total keeps on protecting you against plaque and cavities while you're working, and even against tartar and gum problems while you're playing, thanks to its antibacterial protection. And for complete cleaning, the Colgate Total toothbrush with 3 different bristles. Colgate Total, for a life of complete oral care.
Oh, no!
Don't worry, Mr. Jones. We'll sort it all out.
Oh, easy, low-cost motor insurance.
Better talk direct. The direct line.
By July, curlews begin to leave the meadows where they nested. Now the young birds are fully grown and independent. In pairs and family parties, they begin to head for the coast. With the breeding season behind them, they move to the tidal estuaries around our shores to feed and molt. A lot of the birds, which breed in Scotland and northern England, travel to Morecambe Bay on the northwest coast. Here, on the mud banks exposed by the low tide, the curlew's long bill really comes into its own as the bird probes deep into the mud in search of food. It often washes its catch before swallowing it. The mud flats are rich feeding places for curlews. They're home to a wealth of small creatures. Worms form a major part of the curlew's diet, especially that popular sea fisherman's bait, the ragworm. Curlews eat small shellfish, but they have to catch them before they've had time to burrow too deeply into the mud. Shore crabs are also eaten, but curlews can only deal with the smaller ones. Morecambe Bay is an attractive feeding place for a variety of other birds too. This is a redshank. A black-headed gull is puddling the mud to force small animals to the surface to eat them. Oyster catchers visit the bay in large numbers too. They often associate with curlews. A flock of dunlin flies in to feed. All these birds have similar feeding habits, but each utilizes a slightly different food supply, depending on its bill shape and length. The curlew, with the longest bill of all, can reach deepest into the mud, so it's able to catch animals other birds can't reach. On the coast, curlews often set up feeding territories at low tide. These two are pretending to feed, but they're really marking out their feeding spaces. This system means each bird has a guaranteed food supply of its own. In August, Morecambe Bay holds the largest gathering of curlews in Britain. There are over 3,000 of them. Not all the birds arrive safely. Curlews are protected, but birds sometimes arrive at the coast bearing evidence of encounters with the gun. In Morecambe Bay, the incoming tide surges quickly over the saltings. As the mudflats disappear under the rising tide, the curlews and other waders find their feeding areas diminishing. At high tide, they can't feed at all. Instead, they move to higher ground. Here they'll rest and preen until the tide turns and they can begin feeding again. Meanwhile, high water gives the herons a chance to fish. With the coming of autumn, life becomes more difficult for wading birds in the estuary. The autumn gales produce very high tides, and the birds are sometimes forced to spend long periods away from their feeding grounds. They while away the time roosting and preening. Although a number of curlews stay in Morecambe Bay throughout the winter, many move on again when they've completed their molt. A lot of them head for Ireland. With its mild, damp climate, Ireland is an ideal place for curlews to spend the hardest months of the year. It's very boggy country, with high rainfall causing the rivers to overflow, producing flood meadows. They're known locally as callows and provide excellent feeding grounds for the curlews. One such area is created by the Little Brosna, a tributary of the River Shannon. At the beginning of winter, curlews and other wading birds start arriving on the flooded grasslands. Waders aren't the only birds visiting Little Brosna. The callows form an internationally important refuge for wildfowl too. Over 14,000 widgeons spend the winter here. White-fronted geese are visitors too. Most of the ones coming to Ireland are members of the rarer subspecies which nests in Greenland. Around 200 make the callows of Little Brosna their winter home, where they're joined by wild hooper swans. These Irish flood meadows are very important for a specialised, largely insectivorous feeder like the curlew. Even in midwinter, the ground rarely freezes, so curlews can continue feeding in the soggy grasslands. But some of these areas are beginning to disappear. Southern Ireland contains the largest area of raised peat bog in Europe. Peat extraction is economically important, and it's happening on an increasing scale. In some places, it's already resulted in a dramatic change to the landscape. Land reclamation schemes are in operation too. Increasingly, the wetlands are being drained to produce better pasture land. This means the wading birds and wildfowl, which find these wintering grounds so vital, are forced to go elsewhere. And that's not the only problem facing the curlew. The lowland meadows which they like to nest in are threatened too. They're also subjected to land improvement schemes, and true water meadows are beginning to disappear in many parts of the country. The curlew has shown it's an adaptable species by increasing dramatically in the last 100 years. There may be up to 70,000 breeding pairs in Britain, but many of them nest in lowland meadows, which contain the best food supplies. If the meadows vanish, the curlew would be forced to retreat to its original haunts, the uplands and moorlands, which are less useful to man. And only here would the curlew then continue to sing its wonderful song in springtime.